Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Smashy Smashy Eggman movie reviews and more video. Well, past Christmas, I hope you had a great one. Spent time with family. Hope everything is going good. But it's still the end of December, so I'm going to finish off my unconventional Christmas with one final movie. I was looking up a list of movies set with a Christmas theme, or have Christmas in the story. And I found one that, even after watching it, I don't really think fits the theme as much as I hoped, but I picked it. Even when I saw it, I didn't think it was going to. But it's one I've been meaning to rewatch, or watch for the... I'm not 100% sure how much of this movie I've actually seen before today. But, yeah, I decided to rewatch it, and because it has some Christmas elements in it, I decided to make it an unconventional Christmas movie anyways. It is Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut, starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Also in this cast is Alan Cumming, Lily Sobieski, and that is it as far as actors I recognized in this movie. Yeah, so it's a hard movie to try to sum up because it's a very Stanley Kubrick movie. What that means is it's very slow. It's a 2-hour and 40-minute movie. It moves very slow. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it moves at a snail's pace, and some scenes are way longer than needed, and some parts of this movie are just there, and I don't think they're necessarily needed to push the story forward or create a better understanding of what is going on. But basically, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are husband and wife, which back in 1999, they were actually husband and wife. And it is... I'm trying to figure out how to describe this movie. They go to a party where Nicole Kidman is hit on by a dude a lot. Again, this is part of the movie that could have been trimmed down a lot. Tom Cruise is also flirting with 2 models, and eventually gets called away to deal with the host of the party, who is, has a woman who is ODing in his bathroom. He goes to help, because he's a doctor, Tom Cruise is a doctor, so he goes and he helps this woman through her OD. This woman shows up multiple times in this movie, and I'm pretty sure she is clothed once. In one single scene, she has a blanket on her, and that's it. Otherwise, this woman is at least topless, if not... this movie has a lot of skin in it. It is rated NC... This is not rated. I have the not rated version. I have no idea if the theatrical cut was rated R or NC-17. But the version I just watched was not rated. And yeah, if you don't like boobs, there's a lot of boobs. The movie opens... Its establishing shot is Nicole Kidman taking off a dress, and you just see, back and ass. That is the establishing shot of this movie. And I'll get to my thoughts on some of that as I go through, but I'm going to continue on with the story. He goes up to help deal with this girl, and then him and Nicole Kidman go home to have sex. The next day, Tom Cruise is going about his day. So is Nicole Kidman. Eventually, it is night. They are getting high together, and they begin to have a very, very, very long argument. This is another one of those bits where I feel like you could have trimmed part of this scene out, and it wouldn't have affected the flow of the movie, because the crux of this scene is Nicole Kidman has a monologue. Basically, they're arguing about why Tom Cruise was flirting with the 2 models the night before, and the dude who was flirting with Nicole Kidman the night before, and that Tom Cruise isn't jealous because he knows his wife would never cheat on him. And then she goes on this long monologue where she admits that she considered it while they were on vacation. That there was a naval officer who she considered, fantasized about having sex with. She didn't actually have an affair. She fantasized about this. Tom Cruise is then called out for doctor things, and he can't get it out of his mind that his wife fantasized about another man. I want to make that real clear. The rest of this movie is all happens because Tom Cruise is annoyed that his wife fantasized about another man. Not that she actually had sex with another man, that she fantasized about it. 1999. Alright. So, oh yeah, and it's a Christmas party. Nicole Kidman is wrapping presents, and at the end of the movie they go Christmas shopping. That's how Christmas works. And you occasionally see a wreath, or some lights, or a tree. Or a sun. That's Christmas. I don't know if this movie was filmed in December, so they just went, hell with it, Christmas. Or if this was thought out, but it really wasn't integrated that much into the story. Yeah, this is, if you consider this a Christmas movie, it's an unconventional Christmas movie. Anyways, Tom Cruise goes out, he does his doctor thing, he gets hit on by the grieving daughter of a man who's just died, he pushes her away, and then, Greg from Dharma and Greg shows up for a moment. I forgot he was in this movie. Thomas Gibson, I think his name is Thomas Gibson. He shows up as the fiance to the grieving daughter, and then Tom Cruise leaves, and he goes for a walk because his wife fantasized about another man. And he meets a prostitute. He ends up going back to the prostitute's apartment, but before he does anything with this prostitute, he gets a phone call from Nicole Kidman and decides to stop what he's doing and go back to walking the streets. He doesn't go home, he goes back to walking the streets because he is still annoyed that his wife fantasized about another man. And he begins fantasizing about what his wife's fantasies might have been. That is what happens. He begins fantasizing about what his wife's fantasies might have been. So, he ends up going to a bar where an old friend from medical school is playing piano, and he begins talking. And this scene is actually really short, considering all of the lengthy dialogue scenes before you get to the point in this movie. This is one of the few scenes where it just gets to the point, where the piano player says, oh, he's got another gig tonight, he's got to be blindfolded, it's real hush-hush secret, then he gets a phone call, which gives him the password, then Tom Cruise asks for the address, since he's already got the password, and we move right the hell on. Like, this is how this movie should have been. Set up, payoff, moving on. Set up, but it gets really drawn out. But this scene was done just the way it needs to be. Tom Cruise has to get a cloak, a mask, and a tuxedo before he can go to this party. So he goes to a costume shop that is closed, but he's the doctor of the owner. Although the owner has sold the shop a year ago, the current shop owner lets him in when he offers $200 over the rental price. We then have a weird scene where the shop owner catches his daughter, played by Lily Sobieski, who, if my math is correct, would have been 16 at the time she did this movie, and her costume is nothing but a bra and panties, is with two Japanese men. And it looks like she is in the midst of fucking these two Japanese men. Her father gets really angry, pulls her out of the room, locks the two Japanese men in the room, and says he's going to call the police as soon as he's done with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise then arrives at the party, and it's, this is the famous part of this movie. It's the sex party where, everyone's in masks and cloaks, and there's sex going on everywhere, and he's walking through, and he meets a woman who is clearly the woman who he saved at the beginning of the movie from an OD. He doesn't recognize her, but because you only see her in one state, which is naked, everyone else immediately goes, oh, that's her! I know those boobs. Her face wasn't really a factor in that first scene, but those boobs, because it can't just be me. Again, the camera was so focused on her, like, Stanley Kubrick wanted you to know it was that woman, because she's in a mask. So the face wasn't important. He wanted to make sure he framed her so the boobs are what you recognized and would go, oh, those are the same boobs. That it was a director's choice. All right, I am a pervert, but this is not. Anyways, she warns him that he needs to leave, or really bad things are going to happen. She's then taken away, and he continues on through the house until he is eventually brought before the Grand Council of Masked People, where they tell him to remove his mask, tell him to unclothe, because he has broken their rules, because he does not know their second password. The OD'd woman, shows up and says she will take his punishment, and Tom Cruise is sent away. The next day, he goes out looking for his piano-playing friend, finds out he checked out of his hotel. Alan Cummings tells him the entire story of two men bringing him in, getting his stuff, getting him the hell out. It's a very, it sounds very, very bad. He then goes back to the house where the sex party was and is given a letter basically telling him to stop looking into what's happening. He then, for some reason, buys a gift and goes to visit the prostitute he did not have sex with. That's very important. He did not have sex with her. Her roommate answers the door and informs him that she got a positive AIDS test earlier in the day, so she doesn't know if her roommate will ever be home, and that it really sucks that she got a positive AIDS test, which it does. And Tom Cruise's reaction, and her reaction, she even says, oh, you're the guy she told me about who was really nice to her last night. So you have to imagine that conversation. It was said that they never actually had sex. So when she's telling him that she's HIV positive, the entire interaction sounds like Tom Cruise banged her and could also be HIV positive, but he definitely didn't bang her. Therefore, there's no way he's HIV positive, and it's just a weird scene that's played up like we're supposed to feel sorry for Tom Cruise because he might be HIV positive instead of the girl who actually is HIV positive. 1999. Anyways, if you haven't realized, I haven't said Nicole Kidman a lot recently, because Tom Cruise is then summoned to the man who threw the party at the beginning of the movie, who had the OD'd girl in his room. Tom Cruise finds out that the girl OD'd in her apartment, and he goes to see the body, and still does not put two and freaking two together that this was the girl who was in the bathroom at the start of this movie. In the audience, has already realized what is going on. Tom Cruise is an idiot and hasn't. The plot demands it. He gets summoned to his friend's apartment, where he's told that everything was done for a show the night before. That he was in no real danger. It was just all a show to scare the shit out of him, and that he just needs to let it go. Tom Cruise then brings up, was it this girl who OD'd, who stood up for me, who was warning me? And the dude's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, well then why, what type of trick was this if she ended up dead? And he looks at him and goes, you told her yourself the night before that if she didn't give up drugs, she was going to OD. And then Tom Cruise finally realizes what the hell is going on. And he goes home to his wife. Because that was the climax of the film. That somehow was the climax of this 2-hour and 40-minute movie, was him being told that it was all a setup just to scare him, like him being told he needed to undress, and her taking his punishment. It was all just, trickery and a setup to scare him. He then goes home. He apparently confesses everything to Nicole Kidman, which technically he's done stuff, but he hasn't done, at no point does his pants come off. His pants never come off. Now again, if he banged the prostitute who had HIV, that would have been something. But he tells her everything that happened the night before, and they look really awkward, like it's that awkward, how dare you? How dare I fantasize about another person, and you get jealous of that fantasy, but I told you about the fantasy because I wanted to make you jealous, and then you went out and almost had sex with a prostitute, and watched a bunch of other people bang, and got caught up in a weird sex cult thing where they scared you away. How dare you? How dare you? They then take their 7-year-old child Christmas shopping, where they ask what are they going to do, and they agree just to move on with their lives, and that they need to have sex. The end. Literally, Nicole Kidman says, we need to go have sex. The end. So Eyes Wide Shut. What the hell? First off, Nicole Kidman might actually be the best actor in this entire movie. Like, I was really engaged in her scenes. I was really interested with what she was saying. But I feel like she was only in this movie to be naked. Like, as much as when she actually got to act, she was amazing and very talented. And was acting circles around Tom Cruise. But for the majority of this movie, it's just about Nicole Kidman being naked. For what she's in this movie for. And she's not in this movie a lot because it focuses so much on Tom Cruise and that journey. And again, the fact that the impetus of this journey is that his wife fantasized about another man. Like, it's such a weird impetus. That's such a weird, like, all of this other stuff happened because of that. Like, that's a weird jumping off point. And again, some of this stuff, it takes so long to get anywhere in this movie. I summed up every plot point needed in, like, 10 minutes. And this movie does it in 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's a lot. That is a lot. Like, there's not a lot that happens in this movie. And there's a lot of unnecessary, like, the whole, oh, I forgot. Tom Cruise goes back, returns his costume the next day, and you find out that the dude didn't call the cops, and he's worked out some business arrangement with the two Japanese men, who probably still banged his 16-year-old daughter, and then kind of offers that if Tom Cruise wants to, he can bang his 16-year-old daughter. Why, I don't know. What this movie is trying to say, I don't know. It has something to do with sex, clearly. I don't know if it's free love, because I feel like that's wrong. That's definitely not what it's aiming at. I don't know. I don't know what this movie was trying to say. I don't know what Stanley Kubrick wanted to say while making this movie. I'm just really confused. Like, I am very confused as to why. Like, what was the drive of making this movie other than going, how many boobs can I put on a screen? Because there's a lot. There's a lot of boobs in this movie. But that's what it felt like after a while, is how many boobs can end up on the screen. And I don't know if he was trying to tell a real story. I don't really know if a story was told. It was an adventure, I guess, the story would be of an adventure, because it only spans the course of 3 days. So that would be an adventure in Tom Cruise's character's life, this weird moment of time where this weird thing happened, but again, I don't know what the point of it was. But yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, again, it's not, I'm not going to say it's boring, but I don't think I need to watch this movie again. I don't think it's one I need to go, man, I need to watch this again so I can really understand it. I need to sit down and watch the Channel 4 documentary, The Lost Movie. Stanley Kubrick and Eyes Wide Shut, The Lost Movie. The last. It says last. This is dumb font. The Last Movie. A new featurette. Lost Kubrick, the unfinished films of Stanley Kubrick. That has nothing to do with this movie. Interview gallery featuring Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg. Where the hell is Steven Spielberg on this? He didn't produce it. He didn't help with this movie. But yeah. An interview gallery featuring Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and Steven Spielberg. I could believe that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are talking about this movie because they're in this movie. Spielberg must just be talking about Kubrick in general. Kubrick's 1998 Directors Guild of America D.W. Griffith Award acceptance speech. So it's a speech he made before this movie released. And the theatrical trailer and TV spots. Yeah, none of that's going to help me figure out what the hell this movie was and why it was. But yeah, again, I don't, a worthy final chapter to a great director's career. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Like, admittedly, I haven't watched all of Stanley Kubrick's movies. Recently I've seen this, Doctor Strangelove, which there's a review for on the channel, and The Shining, which there's a movie to book to miniseries comparison review also on the channel. I really like The Shining. That's a classic. Doctor Strangelove was really good. This was meh, and I know I'm not a huge Clockwork Orange or 2001: A Space Odyssey fan, but that was when I was a kid. My opinions on those may have changed as an adult. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a fine movie. Like I said, I just really wanted to rewatch it, and that's kind of why I went, oh, it has Christmas! Beautiful! It can be it can be an unconventional Christmas movie. It's really not. I just wanted to talk about it. So yeah, that's Eyes Wide Shut. You know, if you've never seen it and you're really curious after hearing me talk about it, check it out. I think it's probably streaming somewhere. Warner Brothers released it, so HBO Max probably has it. But yeah, otherwise, that's the end of 2022 for Smashy Smashy Eggman movie reviews and more. Next year, it's next week. I'm going to be covering a New Year's Eve movie, just so I have time to put together my top 10, which will obviously be the second week of January. The rest of January, I will actually, I should be having guests join me to talk about 2 movies. It should be a lot of fun. But that's going to be next year, so check that out. I'm going to be reviewing a New Year's Eve movie, then my top 10 list of 2022. Just again, in case something that comes out right at the end of the year, I don't want to like feel up against the wall trying to make that video happen. But yeah, so Happy New Year. Hope 2022 is good to you, and I will talk to you next year. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Have a good one.